This is the Metal Roofing Learning Channel, brought to you by Western States Metal Roofing, where you can find a variety of colors and finishes, all while saving by buying factory direct.
Hi, so today I'm here with Connor McMenamin from Intercoat Chemguard. And Connor, why don't you tell me a little bit about Intercoat Chemguard? You know, what is the product and why is it beneficial to us?
Intercoat Chemguard is the name we attribute to a family of corrosion inhibitors that go into a few different markets, but they all function by bonding to the zinc on galvanized steel substrates. They're applied by a coil coating method, similar to what you would see at a paint line, but these are functional coatings. The way they function is by forming a network of bonds over the zinc on the galvanized steel substrate. And by the nature of these bonds, they extend the life of the product. And by useful life, we would talk about formation of white and red rust. So you're getting something like an extension of 5 to 20 times useful life in terms of that formation of rust, depending on what you're doing and what substrate is underneath.
You're saying that it's going to be 5 to 20 times better than Galvalume or Zincalume and galvanized?
Most of our testing is against various types of galvanized. The coating works over galvannealed, electro, and then the ZAM, the zinc, aluminum, magnesium family of coatings. We have outperformed Galvalume, but our testing in that area is a little less frequent. But if you take a G30 as an example, or a G40, which would be the base level of a zinc galvanized coating that you would find on the market, conservatively, our Intercoat Chemguard formulas would extend that life by 8 to 10 times, and we can boost that up to a higher number depending on what you're doing.
So in the architectural building markets, for a pre-painted steel, like if we're going to take some Zincalume and then, paint it country red, for example, that's not something you can do with your product, right? I mean, it's not designed
Not
for
at
that.
this point. And some of the formulations work really well with post paint, and we do sell the product for adhesion purposes in a number of markets. The tinted products that we bring today to architecture are intended to be the final look. Customers wanted an economical, robust coil coating that was at a price point that was lower than the pre-paints of the market, and then better than the G90s and the Bonderized. So we were able to give a similar pre-patina or a natural weathered look at a better value than what you might see out in the market.
So if I'm comparing this to Bonderized, now Bonderized is typically a gray, and unfortunately that gray will vary from batch to batch.
So we definitely do see some of the same variation across a coil and a batch. We do have arrangements where we can work to a certain L value, but it's not the same that you might see in like a paint system for sure. There's always going to be some of that variability. They're similar to Bonderized in that you do get that variability, and that your installers want to take care in putting the product up on a house or a museum or whatever it might be, because we do see similar challenges with the scratching and oil absorption for like fingerprints or boost prints. The differentiation comes in the fact that this product has a self-healing mechanism, which is very strong. So if you're lightly abrading the product or scratching it, the coating naturally is going to want to migrate to that exposed zinc and bond all over again. So you have a scratch maybe, which doesn't look as nice, but that coating is still doing its job across years and decades.
Some of the other issues we run into with Bonderized is it doesn't wet stack at all, very well. In other words, if those sheets come out there, they're tight, they're in a bundle nice and tight, and it gets wet, almost guaranteed white rust. Same problems with Intercoat Chemguard, or is that much better?
So there's an improvement there. Chemguard will you want to avoid the wet stacking, or position your bundles in a way that allows water to flow out to the extent possible. What Chemguard is more likely to do in that scenario is you might see some hazing, but it's not necessarily going to be white rust.
Now what about, with Bonderized, it's such a minimal amount of coating that's on there, you know, many years down the road, you're kind of worried about that pilling off a little bit and showing an exposed galvanized. Do you worry about that the same way with Chemguard, or is it a thicker coating? How does that work?
That's a good question. Short story is that we don't worry about that type of phenomenon in the same way. The coating is um, technically similar to a thin film acrylic in some ways. It is an ultra thin coating. That said, the product bonds permanently to the zinc, so we're there self-sacrificing as long as that zinc is there. To get the product to come off, you have to chemically or mechanically remove the zinc from the substrate. There's going to be a long tenure, especially in the black phosphate product.
How do the edges work as far as this Intercoat Chemguard?
So you definitely see self-healing aspects on scratches on the surface or the face or some light abrasion, and we see a dramatic improvement on cut edges of what you know, on the galvanized side we would call like the zinc wipe down effect. So if you're slitting or uh, uh, running the product through a cut to length, you're going to see a big difference versus a traditional galvanized product in terms of edge protection. It does decrease as thickness increases, so it's not magic per se. We're not selling snake oil by any means, but you get really strong cut edge protection, and the same goes for perforation.
So we probably, in a roundabout way, kind of talked about this, but what would you consider the advantages of your product, and what would you consider the disadvantages of this product?
I'll start with the disadvantages first, and those kind of lead back into the advantages. The main disadvantages are really the similarities it has with Bonderized, in that it's a functional coating with some variability in it, and it can be prone to scratches and boot prints and fingerprints. Um, where that takes you to the advantages of the product is that when you're dealing with some of that light abuse in the field, the product, Intercoat Chemguard, is still there doing its job. All it wants to do is bond to zinc. So if you scratch it, the product around that area, and there's typically a little bit extra built in, so that when there's a scratch in the field, the adjacent Chemguard is looking to bond with that zinc, and it's going to do so gradually. Uh, all of the Chemguard formulations come with phenomenal corrosion protection, self-healing attributes, and cut edge protection. That's what really stands us apart. And when you look at this coating in a field of wonderful coatings, our place is basically the combination, or the value that is offered by the combination of performance and price point.
And to some extent, aesthetics too. I mean, if you're looking for that black look, that kind of old black look, it does look beautiful.
Yeah, it's a wonderful aesthetic, and you know, we do our best to be transparent with our customers and say, you know, look, these are the things you need to take care of, and then as long as you do that, you're going to get X, Y, or Z, and enjoy, you know, the product that you sourced.
Black phosphate will be available in 24 gauge. We'll have it in coil, flat sheets, and all of our metal roofing and siding panels.
Want to learn more? Check out these videos.